Yes, yes, y'all. It is another edition of the Daddy's Working Podcast. If you were listening last week, then you heard part one of the interview and I left you hanging. Gosh, I'm such a tease. But we're here and we're ready to rock and roll. So let's dive back into part two of the interview. Let's talk about, you keep mentioning the total life blueprint, and I want to talk about the 7 principal assets. Can we just talk a little bit about each one?
Yeah. I mean, basically, the 7. It is obviously your profession and what you do for a living, your relationships, and that is both with your spouse, your partner, your children, your family, especially if you have adult parents still living, and then finally the relationship with yourself, which is the most telling one that there is. And so we kind of unpack both where those things are and where you want them to go, and then what's the action plan to make that move forward. Then we get into looking at your health, and from not just a physical health, but mental, spiritual, and financial health. And kind of, everybody has a relationship and a money story. And so that tends to be a fairly common issue for a lot of folks. And so we unpack kind of what that looks like, the gap analysis, where you want it to be, and then how do you start changing and moving the tide with all that. Then there's the self-development, which we talked about a little bit, just what are you doing to invest in yourself to make yourself better at what you do. We do an entire module on spirituality, and just for the record, I mean, I've got Jewish clients, I've got Hindu clients, I've got a Buddhist, I have an agnostic, I've got a Christian. So it really doesn't matter. But we're talking about the way that you interact with the divine and how you show up in the universe. And then the other one is your passions and interests. And for me, that's piano. And what I used to do is I would try to steal away time, knock off a little bit early in the day so I could sit down and play the piano a little bit. I've now realized that piano for me does something creatively and strategically for me. So before I do a call like this, or before I do a coaching session with somebody, I'm blocking out 15, 20 minutes on my calendar to sit out at the piano, because there's something about just, letting myself express musically that opens me up to where I hear things differently. I see things differently. I'm operating at a higher level of consciousness. And so I bring that architecture into my day rather than trying to steal time just so I can play. I've had 2 clients that their business was completely, one of them, Charles Kazee. He was, still has an agency.
South Africa?
Yeah, down in South Africa and J-Bay. And he was at a place in the growth process where he's just kind of stuck, and he was sort of treading water, losing ground a little bit and all that sort of thing. And he's like, I just don't know what to do. I can't get off center here. And I said to him, Charles, when's the last time that you played your guitar? And I mean, this guy is a tour quality guitarist. I mean, a wicked talented individual. And he said, man, I just hadn't had time. The business has been taken over. And I said, I hadn't played in probably 6 weeks.
Wow.
I was like, all right. I'm telling you right now, go get your guitar, bring it into your office, set it down in front of your whiteboard. I said, and it's not, getting sheet music. It's not practicing. It's not, playing your band's charts or whatever. I just want you sitting there picking as you're thinking through solutions for the issues that are on your board. Absolutely. He called me back the next week and he's like, you will not believe this. He said, all of a sudden it just kind of hit me. If I got rid of this one and moved these 2 here, now all of a sudden it works. And he started to see kind of momentum happen. There is something about having whatever your outlet is. If you're a workout person, if you're a painter, if you're a musician, if you're a writer, it doesn't matter what the passion and interest is. If it's not integrated into your work and business, then again, you're showing up at 60%. And you've got to figure out how to let that be part of, where you are and what rhythms you need to put in life to make that possible. And then the last one is getting into life purpose and understanding, one, that you have one. And then 2, how does it manifest itself? And what do you do to continue to perpetuate and move that thing forward? I recognize now, back in the day, whenever I was full of myself, I thought it was all about the title and all about the money. I recognize, nope, it's actually about giving and empowering people. And how do you, I love watching teams whenever I was in corporate, my team whenever I was at the agency, and now with the entrepreneurs that I work with. I love watching the light bulb come on whenever they realize, hey, wait a minute, I can go do this. In fact, I can go do this because I already have that in me. It's here. It's been provided for me already. Now all I have to do is just exorcise it. I've got a client that is, I laugh because she is the least likely of anybody. She's the antithesis of my avatar. came onto a webinar, was doing an interview with somebody, and bought the product, had never heard of me before, bought it that day and went right into the program. And I will tell you, she's now very quickly becoming, I mean, she's like, middle 60s and becoming one of my favorite clients because she will execute anything because she's discovering how talented she is. I mean, it's just the freedom of
at 60.
At 60,
I'm
telling you, she's going to be a beast Amazon marketer. I mean, she is really moving and growing her business in a big way, and it has nothing to do with the structure of the Amazon business. It's allowing her and walking her through an exercise where we're peeling back all these layers where everybody in the world told her that she couldn't, or that she wasn't good enough, or that she wasn't strong enough, or that she wasn't smart enough, or she wasn't whatever. I mean, you think about it, Jonathan. The way that you talk to yourself, would you ever talk to one of your kids that way?
I talk to myself lovingly. I would never talk to my kids that way.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's the way that we beat ourselves up, and we're trying to do it because we're saying, we want to be better, we want to be stronger. I wouldn't talk to one of my kids the way that I talk to myself.
No way.
So why would I do that? Why would I? Why? And so I stop and just ask myself. Whenever I get down on myself or whatever, Monday was a dark day for me. It was just one of those sort of, I just felt heavy, and about noon, 1 o'clock, I walked out on the back porch and I was like, you know what, dude, why are you saying this? Is what you are saying really true? Let's just sort of unpack it a minute and say, okay, your business is growing. Your relationships are at all-time high level. What's going on? Well, all of a sudden I recognized that I had not been keeping up with my rhythm of time for my spiritual practice. I'd been sort of glossing over in the morning and just, kind of flipping through and doing my daily readings, but not really investing in it. And it had been going on for about 10, 12, 14 days. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, duh, why are you down on yourself? You're not investing. You're not taking care of that spiritual bank account that needs to be fed. You've been writing checks off of it, not putting anything back in it. And you've got to get back to that practice. And so I just stopped right where I was, had an open block in my calendar, went and sat down out back and just read for a while and just sat and contemplated, how do I want to keep my spiritual fervor hungry? How do I, what is it that's missing? How did I get off track in the first place? How do I make sure that doesn't happen anymore? And recognizing that whenever I'm working on those principal assets, my business is easy. I show up and deliver and help unlock people. And it's the easiest thing in the world to do. I love it. I'm not emotionally and physically drained from it. And I can do it in a very short window of time that doesn't take me working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, to where I can get to my currency, freedom. You see how we go at this thing completely wrong, thinking we're going to just kill ourselves trying to get to a number so that we can buy our currency. You create it. You create it.
All right, so listen, gotta pay the bills. So here is a quick advertisement for your ears that I think you're going to find useful. How would you like to spend more time with your family and less time on your business? Before anyone chooses to do business with you, they need to know one important thing. Can I trust you? The only problem is building trust can take forever. And I know you don't have that kind of time. But what if there was a way to build trust in minutes instead of years? You'd want that, wouldn't you? Good news, buckaroo. That's exactly what you'll get inside my Digital Daddy's Toolkit. It's got my top 3 speed influence tools to make you a trusted expert in any market quickly. Go to daddysworking.com/DDT to grab your copy today.
What happened to you, bro? Because we just caught up last week after, we catch up probably every 6 months or so, but
yeah,
there's been a transition in the last 8 to 10 months. I don't know what's going on with you, but you seem just more centered, happier, just you're glowing almost.
Well, I thank you, because it's the result of being intentional. It's been almost 2 years ago. Susie and I have been married going on 6 years. The first 3.5, almost 4 years of our marriage, we were in 2 houses in 2 states just because we were getting kids, through high school and into college. And so whenever she moved over to Dallas a little over, right at 2 years ago, we sat down and said, you know what, this is not going to happen without us deciding how do we want to make it happen. And so we spent a lot of time sitting out on the back patio and just saying, okay, let's talk about what a great relationship looks like. let's talk about how we want to show up spiritually as a company or as a couple. How do we want our business to operate? Do we want to have a grind, or do we want to create, it's a big one, is we had to say, are we wanting to try and build a $10 million a year empire? Or are we good with just, a good solid lifestyle income that's happy, that gives us what we need to retire because we want time more than we want stuff? And once we get clear with that, then it just becomes a clear process of saying, okay, if I want these 7 things to look this way, what's the methodology? What's the model to get me from here to there? We wanted a house that was out on the lake, so that we love water. We met on a lake when we were 12, and so we want that relaxation element around us. We want a picturesque setting, even if I have to give up, well, I don't know that we give up space, but if you give up space, you give up whatever.
Yeah, right.
but we also wanted it at a certain price point, so we weren't in slavery to a house. Well, then that starts to decide where in Dallas do you go so that you can get what you want at the price that you want it to be. It's just that intentionality and getting, I use the phrase brutally honest with yourself, that you quit lying and you quit just throwing words in the air and calling them goals when actually they're just fantasies, because it can't be a goal if it doesn't have a plan of execution. Otherwise it's just words. And so we looked at, how do we want to live? How do we want, what kind of lifestyle do we want? And so what that means to me is that I do client work only on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I don't do client calls on Mondays and Fridays. That's whenever I do either, KevinBreeding.com stuff, or I do networking with friends, or right now I'm working on the transcript of a book, and I tend to do that on Fridays. And so it's having that architecture. And so somebody listening may say, man, that's way too structured for me. It's not. It's actually not.
That's freedom.
It's using simple rhythms that just say, you know what, I need to stay in this sort of rhythm to where I have the structure of how things go, so that I can compact my work, get it in, get it done, show up, deliver it, with unbelievable value, and then unplug so that I can show up as me. That's the way that this thing works.
So I tell these guys all the time: structure equals freedom. And half of my 2 listeners, me and Cupcake, are like, structure is prison.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's because they're adrenaline junkies. They're addicted to the dopamine. They're addicted to the adrenaline. They're addicted to feeling like they're needed and necessary because they have to grind. I'm the complete polar opposite. My thing is, I want to show up. I want to work fiercely, and then walk away from it and not open it until next Tuesday.
Leave it all on the field.
Every bit.
I love that, man. So cool. We've touched on a lot of different things, and as we're coming to the tail end of this, I'm wondering what we didn't talk about that you thought we should be talking about. What did I miss? What haven't we spoken about? What would you like to talk more about?
I think the thing for me that's most important is everybody says, I'm going to get to this, and they never do. And so the question, when's the right time to look at working on the 7 principal assets in your life? And the answer is in the next second.
Yesterday.
No matter where you are in your process, whether you are just getting started, you're in a side hustle still in corporate, or you've got, my largest client is a solopreneur doing a $90 million business right now. And it's looking at what do I need to be doing differently so that, I don't build a business that owns me. I want to be able to own the business. I want to be able to own my life and let it feed me rather than let it consume me. And the way to do that is just to start now. You can't put it off and say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to work on it on Friday. No, it's just stopping and sitting back and saying, okay, wait a minute. Where am I? Is my job where it needs to be? Are my relationships feeding me? Am I doing the health stuff that I need to do? Am I developing as a person? And I guarantee you, one is going to be non-existent if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, and another 2 or 3 are like suffocating. And because we sell ourselves out into one thing only, more times than not, it's our business. And you've got to just decide what I'm doing right now is not working. It's not getting me to where I want to go. I may be in process. I may even be on an uptick and things are, kind of moving up. Still, it's the right time to sit down and say, you know what? How do I want life to be for me? What do I want this experience to be? And then create an action plan that is highly detailed and have an accountability partner where you can walk your way right through it.
Let's go back to where we started because it's just been a recurring theme because a lot of people I've spoken with have been on this kick. But we met at a mastermind. You talked about that's one of the things you do for self-development. So first, I want to ask you really quickly, in your words, what is a mastermind to you?
Not what most people buy. Most masterminds that I go to, people buy into because they're trying to buy clients.
Okay.
And that's the wrong reason to be there. You can get business out of a mastermind for sure, but that's a real mastermind to me is a group of people who are intensely invested in one another's success. That they are so committed to putting into the conversation, how can I make Jonathan's business better than it's ever been by things that I've gone through, either wins that I've experienced or scars that I've gone through? How can I share those with you and everybody else in the team in hopes that it's going to make your business better? And whenever I go into a mastermind like that, completely in giving mode, I go into it saying, I'm not going to have anything to take away from this thing. I'm just going to give to everybody in the room. I walk away with barrels of wisdom and barrels of actionable items because people want to give back to people who give. It's just a natural process. And so you go into a mastermind, one that's not full of slimy people. You make sure that the guru is.
How do you know that though, going in?
Well, it's tough. You have to sort of walk before you run and sort of figure out what needs to be happening. But you can also sort of tell. A lot of masterminds are just the next to the top rung in an ascension model of some guru, and it's not actually about investing in people's lives. It's just this is how I can get you into a $25,000 commitment, so eventually I can get you to spend $100. And one, know where the guru, the host, is coming from, because that's going to tell you very quickly what to expect out of the deal. If it's just the next upsell for you, then it's probably not the best situation. And I'm not even talking about an annual. I'm talking about doing stuff like Perry Marshall runs these events where he'll have 5 or 6 people come to his home, and they do a 2-day intensive roundtable just one time. I think it's a fantastic model because everybody's there, they're leaning in. He's brilliant, and and they just intensely get into it. It's looking at how can I give and surround myself with the kind of people that I want to surround myself with, who are at the same level or preferably higher than I am, so that then I'm going to learn a ton from people who are willing to invest in me as well.
I'm a leech then, because I like to join masterminds where I think everybody's at a higher level, so I can just sit there and listen.
Yeah,
not contributing.
Yeah, you want people. You definitely want people that are there, and the worst thing that you can do is be in a room where you're the biggest business in the room.
Right.
And definitely don't want to do that. But just recognizing that great masterminds occur when really fantastic people show up and invest in each other's lives. That to me is the essence of what a real mastermind is. Sadly, most that I've seen aren't that at all.
Yeah.
It's a meat market for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm finding, and I've done this now for years. Our mastermind, actually, the one where we met was my first higher level mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone on to some high dollar masterminds that made that look like chump change.
Yeah.
And what I found has really worked for me, and this is how I know when it's right and when I want to be in it, is I look for values match. Do these people have the values that we've been talking about, like your 7 principal assets, my pillar of power? Do these people, are they into family? Are they into faith? And the more that they line up with my values, the more I know I'm going to love it, because I don't go in there for any other reason. I mean, I usually get business because that's going to happen because you find people you like, you want to do business with them. I go there looking for friends and ski buddies and people that I can hang out with, because not everybody's playing it. Not everybody can do what we can do. And so the people in those rooms are an opportunity for us to be hanging out with like-minded people. And so it's such a blessing, such a gift. And I'm grateful that I discovered them. So Kevin, anything else that you want to talk about as we're coming towards the end here?
I think the biggest thing for me is making sure that the listeners understand everything that you need to show up as an A-level player is in you. Yeah, there's processes and there's software and there's all the stuff. But what happens is your success occurs whenever you invest in a client. And one trick I'll give everybody on our way out here is that if you're in a spot right now where you are stuck, the number one thing you need to do, if you're like completely frustrated, you can't figure out how to move forward, the one thing you need to do is stop everything else. Go find somebody in your circle of influence that you can serve today for free, that they have no ability to pay you. Go bless them. Go serve them. Go answer their question. Go give what you're trying to sell. Go give it away to somebody and watch what happens with the rest of your business. It will blow open the doors every single time.
Listen to this guy. So kevinbreeding.com, I believe, is the website. Kevin, Kevin, Breeding, Breeding. His program that we have spoken about just a little bit, the Total Life Blueprint. I'm sure you can find out more on the website, and look for Kevin Breeding everywhere. He's a joy. He's a gift. He's a friend. And dude, thank you for taking the time out to rap with me and the Daddy's Working Crew. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I love it. Every time we talk, it is always just a highlight. And I want to say thank you, not only for allowing me to be here, but also thank you for what you do. This world needs a whole lot more people with a message like yours.
Let's get it, baby.
This is the podcastfactory.com.